Oh, oh my. That's how you gonna start an episode? I'm gonna have to get me a drink. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you'll be the first to know. Episode 4 of WandaVision. What everybody, all the cast members have been saying, that's the one you're waiting for. I know you may say it slow, you may say this and this and this, but this is the one that's going to change the game. And I think they might be on to something. Episode 4 is called We Interrupt This Program. And it's done that way because, well, it is a very interruption flow of what we have got so far from the first 3 episodes, where we got a sitcom, decade sitcom, decade sitcom. This one does its best to sort of explain some things to you. And depending on where you stand as far as your Marvel fandom, depends on how big or how important uh, or how much of a game changer this episode truly is for you. I think you can pretty much categorize Marvel cinematic watchers as in two fans: the Marvel fans who are like diehards, who know the comics, who know things and this and that a lot of their guessing or what they think may be happening, um, they have a little bit more knowledge to base their assumptions on. Then you have the other half who are just kind of along for the ride, aren't as in depth with the A, B, C, D's of everything that happens with Marvel, and are a little bit more like confused. While they still enjoy what they're watching, they are confused overall as to what it is they are getting. And depending on where you fall on that pendulum, it depends on how much of a game changer this episode is. I love this episode. It is not my favorite of the series because I think I particularly like the style of the sitcoms, and I think for me there's more mystery and intrigue and mystique in being doing the subtle reveals and having me question them opposed to you giving an entire episode of just here it all is. That's it. Spoilers. This episode does everything to humanly place this series firmly in the grasp of wherever the MCU is now, and it sort of uses a needle to tie in all those first 3 episodes to what we get, and to sort of show the outside world, the MCU world, looking in into what WandaVision truly is and what the mysteries are. Um, the opening of this episode is nuts. It's phenomenal. It's probably one of the better things that I've seen in MCU. Period. It, if we all know, when Thanos did the snap, half the population disappeared, and what happens to their loved ones? They still age. We've seen it sort of in Spider-Man that when the snap comes back, they just come back at the age they were to the lives where everything else has changed. And while Spider-Man took a very matter of fact and somewhat comedic way of bringing people back, that wasn't sort of the point of that film, but you just saw a viewpoint of what the blip returning back, what those people returning did. This took a much more dramatic and darker and felt more tangible and realistic version of it, and you just see the sheer terror of people just all of a sudden appearing back in hospital rooms and rooms. Like, it shows more explanation of what happened and sort of the horror that can occur in that moment, and that is kudos to whomever decided to put that there and film that. It was very well done. This episode spends more time with Monica Rambeau, who we know we last saw as a child in Captain Marvel. She's back full grown, and we get to see that she has been part of SWORD before she went away for during the blip. But she is back and kind of now reclaiming her steps and getting back into the fold of things. And in doing so, she's put on a mission to figure out what the hell is happening in this new form, Westview. I think for me, a lot of the details that we get about what's happening in the show was not that hard for me to figure out. For me to get to the A, B's, and C's of things, a lot of that stuff was sort of written out if you know any type of Marvel history, which is why I went a little bit earlier to show the difference between the Marvel fans. I know what Marvel is doing. They are trying to say, stick with us for the non-super fans. We might need to peel back a couple of layers to kind of catch them up, to get them involved. For some Marvel fans, this might have been like, this is just an expository episode. Like, I'd rather you have stuck to the guns of doing the sitcom and being unique as opposed to just putting us in the traditional Marvel world. I like it. But I will say that the threads, they didn't show me anything, a couple of things. They didn't show me many things that I didn't already know. I knew that Wanda was controlling this. I knew she was the one who was, I'll play with that in a minute, but I knew she was the one responsible for this. And that she is protecting her mental capacity. And Vision is dead, very much. And she wants to keep that family life going. Um, I was aware that the helicopter that went in obviously came in from the real world and somehow was there. I knew the beekeeper. Didn't know who or what he was, but I was aware that he came from whatever the real world was and somehow snuck in there. And we all had sort of seen that at the end of episode 3, Wanda was like, Geraldine / Monica, you got to get the hell up out of here. All of those things we know. And showing it to us is fine. Sometimes the reveals, like, you show your hand too much, you sort of take away some of the mystery. Didn't do it for me. And there are still some things that are just unknown. I would say the fact that all the humans sort of just have been, this bubble or this world has been built around them, and they've now are gone missing, and they all have some type of real world version of themselves that are now playing this actor game that WandaVision has them going through, is great. We don't know who Catherine Hahn's character is, though. Agnes is the only one who does not have an ID attached to her. So I think there may be something to the effect that while Wanda is the reason why this is all happening, I think some of the control or lack thereof that is happening in this world may also be happening at the hands of Agnes. Some people have said Mephisto may be a part of this too. I'm not quite ready to jump on that, but I do definitely think that Catherine Hahn has more to her character than we're all putting on. But I also love that they sort of play with the fact that why are we switching decades? Is it something that Wanda's just doing, or why is this gradually going up from decade? Why sitcoms? Like, those are all questions that are still in play. So I think they do a good job of answering the questions that a lot of us had already answered, but catching the general audience up so that they're not so confused as to what the point is of being in all of these sitcoms. We get to see Darcy Lewis return, and she has a great Dr. Darcy Lewis return, and she's a great new layer to add in. Also, we get FBI agent Jimmy Woo back from Ant-Man. Both Darcy and Jimmy sort of act as comedic foils for this episode, but they are also good at what they do. Darcy's good at science. Jimmy's good at police work, and they sort of work as a new tandem with S.W.O.R.D. We get to see some layers of what S.W.O.R.D. exists. We get to see a plaque that Monica's mom, Maria, was sort of a part of this. Look, while I love the uniqueness of the first 3 episodes, and I can't wait till we get back to that, because I know we still have some 90s, 2000s, like we're going to do some Modern Family, like her mockumentary style interviews. I am excited that they at least gave a seat to some of the people who are saying this is too slow, that type of stuff, to shut them up for a little bit so we can go back to what I thought was really unique and really captivating in the subsequent couple of episodes. I will say this. Once again, while this is very much Monica Rambeau's episode, Elizabeth Olsen is still doing some magical work, because the tail end of this, when we get to look at the final episode that we just saw, when she expels Monica from the bubble, and we see the comedic sitcom from the eyes of, basically, we get to see it from the eyes of terror, from her eyes, where the way she's seeing it, how it's very dark, the laugh track's removed, and it's just terrifying when she removes, just sends her through the bubble, sends her through wall after wall after wall, and then heals it. You can tell that there's a lot of mental anguish happening with Wanda, poor thing. And when she sees the Vision with his whole head removed, or the whole stone removed and his head caved in, it's sad, because you know that she's doing this to try to persevere any type of time she can with him. And I think Vision, whatever version of Vision she has going, is catching on to that. And it's interesting that since she's creating this whole world and she's creating the version of Vision, there's got to be something at play where she's using Vision curiosity of like what the hell is happening to sort of get out of this, which is why I think Agnes may have something to do with it. And I also think that we keep seeing some of the sitcom, the stuff that we've seen when we watch the sitcom, where we see the radio edit, we see the radio view, we see some of the pieces that blend in. Darcy is getting a censored version, so somehow this is being censored, and by whom? That's another clue of some questions that we kind of ask for the future. So while they answered a lot of stuff from the first three, I think they have put enough seeds that we can, once we enter back into these sitcoms for a couple of episodes, there start being some more threads we get to pull at, and that should be the fascinating part to continue on as we go through the rest of WandaVision. What did you guys think about episode 4? I hear the word game changer, the one that everybody says, oh, this is the one. I think some of that is just because it's probably the most familiar style and tone to what people expect from the MCU, which can be sort of same hat sometimes. But I think that's why people, it's more safe and more used to comfort. It's more comfortable to what people are used to, and I think that's why it's getting such big kudos for people. But I think if you enjoy this ride from start to finish, I think this episode pays off a lot more if you actually enjoy one of the three. If you're, instead of just saying, "Oh, this is boring, this is boring." Oh, now I respect what happened to the first three. I'm not in that ball game, but I actively look forward to what's coming. I think now this has gotten to the point where the people who are sort of on the fence are kind of like, all right, now I want to see what happens next. And I think playing the long game for these mini episodes is starting to pay off for a lot of people. That's where we interrupt this program. Go ahead and leave your thoughts, comments, and what you think is going to happen next in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodAEI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast by the same name. That's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We have been doing this special called A History of Sitcoms Through WandaVision. This episode is going to be a little different because there wasn't a sitcom to play with. So we're going to have to tweak a little bit and play around, but we'll have a new episode of that with guest host Jamie Jarrett. We also have a sister podcast called You Can't Do That Anymore, where we talk about classic movies like Gone with the Wind or Back to the Future or Weird Science and Tropic Thunder. Sort of discuss what those movies were when they came out, what they did when they came out, and see if they can still do some of those things today through the eyes of 2021. Like always, got my ticket. You got yours.